If you'd like to, please subscribe. It helps me out a lot. I post every Wednesday. Hey everyone, my name is Catherine and welcome to my channel. In today's video, I wanted to go over a recent weekend trip that I did to Portland, Oregon, and tell you all what I did and just some recommendations. And recently I posted a video about me packing for this very trip and said I might film it, I might not. And what I ended up doing is I took lots of pictures and did some B-roll and got some video footage. And then now I'm going to be doing a little bit of an overview. And this trip was in Portland. So we did some Portland things, but the heavy focus of this trip was going to the 25th anniversary of Halloweentown, the Disney Channel original movie, if you remember, along with seeing some sights in Twilight. I'm from Seattle, Washington, and I always assumed that all the Twilight things, I'm a big Twilight fan, and I've just been really into it recently. I just think it's the nostalgia and fall and everything. Something about it, I've just been watching it lately, and I have never been to Forks, Washington, surprisingly. It's like on the very tip of Washington and I'm in the Seattle area. I still really want to go to Forks, but I just assumed everything Twilight was there, when in reality, a lot of it was actually filmed in the Portland area or just outside of it. Some things were in Forks, but if you are big into Twilight and are going to Portland or want to go because of Twilight or Halloweentown stuff, I just think this was a really cool trip that I did and wanted to show you guys what I did and recommend and kind of give a 2-3 day itinerary if you're wanting to do like a weekend or long weekend. And yeah, let's get started. So I have some notes and I'm also gonna be adding a lot of photos. So I'm gonna be looking at my phone so I don't miss anything for you all. I did a bit of research and had the help of social media and some blog sites as well for what to do. And this is basically what we got up to. So we were in Portland from Thursday evening through Sunday, and we actually were pet sitting, so that's a hack if you are wanting to save money on accommodation. We drove there because we're from Seattle. I went with a friend and we went on Trusted House Sitters. I'll have the link down below if you're interested. We got to pet sit the cutest dog and she was so very chill. The main thing with this site is you just have to be a bit flexible because it really depends on the needs of what pet owners in the area you're looking on at need at the time. So you can't just like for sure choose these dates and then be guaranteed to find a pet sit in that area for those exact dates. So it's all about flexibility, but that's not the main focus of this video. I just wanted to let you all know that's a bit of a travel hack that I had with me and my friend. So in exchange for free accommodation, we had a whole house to ourselves. We just took care of this really sweet dog. So for Thursday, we basically just met up and drove down to Portland and then met up with the dog owner and like went over how to care for the dog, had dinner with her, went on a walk with the dog. So nothing too crazy. And then the first full day, which was a Friday, we were in Portland and there was no like Twilight things that we did or Halloweentown things. But I do recommend if you go to the Portland area to go to Powell's bookstore. It takes up a whole city block and it is one of, if not the largest independently owned bookstores in the world. So I definitely recommend that. Going into the actual Twilight stuff, which we did on days 2 and 3, which was Saturday and Sunday, I think we were able to hit pretty much everything except for going to the Helens house. But I also heard that the drive up, it's like a narrow kind of drive up in the woods, is blocked off and people live in that house. And I've seen on social media that there's just signs that clearly say they don't want visitors, so you can barely see it. And just given our short time frame and not wanting to be like annoying, we just didn't go to the Cullen house because there was a lot of other things to see. So specifically on October 21st of this year, 2023, marked the 25th anniversary of Halloweentown, or maybe it was like the weekends that followed around then. They were having this huge festivity this day where you can meet the different actors, like a bunch of actors from the movie Halloweentown flew in. There was like festivities, there was all these booths There was like souvenir shops, there was dances and whatnot. The actual plaza with the pumpkin in Halloweentown exists in real life, and I found out about this maybe 2 years ago and have wanted to go since. And we finally just got around to doing it. At around 3 p.m., we did a lot of back and forth from Halloweentown to Twilight stuff because they surprisingly were very close to each other, the filming location. So that's why I'm going to be going back and forth a bit. For Halloweentown, I still recommend whenever you're going to see the plaza. I mean, it's literally, I was so surprised how close the two movies like intertwined with their filming locations, and the actual pumpkin plaza is there all the time. But they had a bunch of different things. I personally didn't want to pay, it was like $50 to $100 to get like autograph signings, and you couldn't take your own pictures or anything. They're a bit strict, so I didn't do that, but that was an option with the main characters. I instead did something, it was a bit cheaper, and it was like a tour about the Halloweentown movies and being able to see certain things from the movies as well. And it was actually in the town hall. That's a functioning, working, real life town hall, but it was also used in several different scenes in the Halloweentown movies. And this was all in St. Helens, Oregon, which is about 45 minutes, I'd say, like northwest a little bit, mostly north from Portland. And so we had that, but before then we wanted to do the majority of seeing the different sites. There was like this one street that had the plaza and everything that we were seeing that day besides the first site, which was probably my most favorite for the Twilight sites, which was Bella Swan's house, or the Swan house. And it is actually a Airbnb, so you can stay at it. They have their own Instagram and everything, so you can book it. Definitely, it's obviously going to be very high in demand, so you have to be very vigilant about like the booking times. Like they'll open up, say you want to book in like September of 2024, maybe like on November 1st at 10 a.m. they'll open up bookings for that month. That's like a year in advance nearly, and then you can book it. That's kind of how it works, but the best suggestion I have is just to follow them on their Instagram. We weren't staying there, but that's a goal of mine, is to stay at that house and watch the Twilight series. But we just ended up driving and parking kind of, it's a little bit on like a hill, so at the bottom of the hill you park and then you just walk up. It's pretty short, and then you can see the Twilight house, and they're pretty open to having like visitors and pictures. You just can't like park right in front of it. But this was like, I don't know, 2 blocks or something from everything else. It was on, I wrote it down, South First Street is where all of the Halloweentown and Twilight things were. Bella's house is right there. So we just took a bunch of different photos, and then we ended up driving like the few blocks to the center of the event. And because this was the 25th anniversary, there was so many different people there. I quickly gave up hope of parking where I wanted to park, which there is, it's called like Petite Jolie or something like that on a blog site that I saw. And if you're going during a less busy time, I recommend doing this. And there's a parking lot that's behind that shop. It is now a hairdresser, but in the Twilight movie, it is where Bella and her friends went dress shopping for prom in the first movie. And behind that store, it's actually like kind of a row of stores, so behind those stores there's a parking lot, and there you can park and then just easily walk to everything. And that parking lot is actually another scene, which is where Bella basically had like those men kind of come up to her, and where like Edward saves her from these men. Pretty cool. The parking lot itself is actually also like a Twilight spot. And there, because I, fun fact, have an electric car, and they have like charging spots there as well. So if you have an electric car, you can even charge your car there. So that's a fun thing. But I did not park there because everything was blocked off, because it was insane. I probably went on the busiest day of the year. But instead what we did was we had to drive pretty far, and it was like a 20 to 30 minute walk, but it was a designated parking lot. And there were school buses that were like acting like shuttles, taking people from the parking lot to the center where everything was happening. It was pretty interesting. I mean, there was a bit of a line, to be honest, but my friend was saying it's cool that they were school buses, because in the movie Halloweentown, you see like the school buses in the movie, so it's kind of like mimicking Halloweentown. And I personally haven't been on like a yellow school bus in so many years, so it was like pretty cool and so nostalgic to just be on a school bus. And so for context, like I've shown like the map and pictures and stuff already, but there's just this one street, and on this one street, on one side is a this lane of stores, and a bunch of them are like souvenir shops or like a coffee shop, and some of them were used for Twilight filming locations. And then on the other side of the street, some are stores. There's also the Columbia Theater, which is where Halloweentown also had a filming spot there. And then there's the plaza, and then on the other side of the plaza was the town hall. And then after the plaza, like on that same street, continues on a few other things, and one of those other things is a Twilight location, which is now, I think it used to be like a real estate office or a law attorney office or something like that. Two different things, but you know, something just professional, like a business. But now it seems like it was sort of abandoned, and it's where Bella and Edward had their first real date, where Bella ordered mushroom ravioli. That's where they filmed that. And then also the little alleyway where she runs down, I was able to walk down that alleyway. Of course, I looked a bit more excited than Bella did in the movie. Again, everything was so close and so nice. And then at 3 p.m., like I mentioned, we had that tour, and so we got to sit in like the movie theater seats that they had in the Halloweentown movies. And then we went into the like office, like an office kind of space upstairs, and that was also a filming location. And a guy kind of introduced just the tour to us and talked about like the history of the town hall and everything. And then 2 different actors that were in the movie, I didn't know this was happening, but they actually came and talked to us. We got in late, so we got like the very first like 2 seats on the first row by the door, and then the actors were right there. And it was basically like the first actress. She was the witch that had the black hair in the dentist scene where she was having her teeth worked on. And then the guy, he was like the postman, and he had this like crazy kind of morphed like mask, and they just were talking to us about the experience of being on set. He didn't know what he was going to play when he started, and then she was the actress and the actor. So the actress was a principal actor, which I didn't know that term, but basically just means that she was an actress that had lines versus he was just a background actor. So they even talked about like how much they got paid and showed like copies of their pay stubs. It was very interesting and kind of random. This was shot in the 90s, and he was like, he showed his pay. She said she was paid a bit more, but he was paid like $30 or $40 a day as a background actor. And so it's very interesting to see all that. And then afterwards we got to talk to them a little bit more. I got like autographs from them. It was just very random, but I'm here for it. You know, this is how I celebrated Halloween. That's kind of the gist of that day. It was all just in that area, and then we had to get back before it got dark so we could walk and feed the dog. If you're doing like a Twilight trip and maybe wanting to see Halloweentown stuff as well, I recommend having a day itself to go to St. Helens, and then another day to do kind of like the other things. So for us, I wanted to go to Carver Cafe, which is where Bella and her dad ended up having like their meals oftentimes. And it's actually a working and functioning cafe. It closes at 2 p.m. every day, so make sure you go for breakfast or for brunch. We ended up going on a Sunday. We couldn't find anywhere to make a reservation, so we just tried to go early enough where it wouldn't close on us. And it was just like a classic American breakfast diner. There's a lot of different Twilight memorabilia, and you can buy mugs, you can buy keychains, you can buy t-shirts, and they're all specifically like Twilight, like Carver Cafe, like specifically for the cafe, not just general Twilight merchandise. And because I was one of the last customers with my friend, the table in the corner where Bella and her dad sat and filmed some of the scenes was available. So me and her and then another like 1 or 2 like table parties kind of took turns to take photos, but during like normal hours that table was like people are eating there. So I guess we got lucky in regards to being able to take photos there. Afterwards, like literally across the street, there's the Stone Inn, which I thought by the term inn it was a hotel, but it's actually a restaurant. That place, if you go to the parking lot, the way we entered, to the left was the restaurant, and then to the right is the woods, the forest. And right away you see this sign that says Twilight, and it has 5 different filming locations in the woods that they filmed Twilight in. It was just pretty cool to be able to just see all those different spots. It was a little tricky to find it, but what was really funny was that the Carver Cafe is not big at all. It has like, I don't know, maybe 10 tables max. Half or a third of the people that were finishing up eating in that cafe, we then saw in this forest. just trying to do the same thing that we were doing and to find these filming locations. And because it's the woods, it's a little bit trickier than say finding a cafe, but each filming location has a plaque that tells you like what scene it is. And I'm just now like zooming in to see, like there's one scene that's called The Unveiling. There's another scene that's like in quotes, I thought you didn't like me, where they're like on that tree branch. And then there's the Lion and the Lamb scene. There's one that's simply called Jumping Around. And then there's another one that's Your Strength Doesn't Scare Me. So I just had a lot of fun just taking photos. Me just being such a twihard, you know? It was just a fun thing. So I definitely recommend on one of your days to do those two things. The last thing we did was we went to Kalmala High School. And if you're driving up north to go, like if you're coming from Washington State, I recommend doing this going into Portland or leaving Portland because it's a bit outside of Portland and it's in Kalmala, Washington, but it's also not super far away if you're flying into Portland. I'm trying to remember how far it was, maybe like an hour. I just assumed this high school was in Forks. Like I thought for sure this was Forks High School. That was an actual high school in Forks. But no, it's a high school in Kalmala, Washington. So that I didn't know until planning for this trip like 2 weeks ago. And that I'm just so shocked I didn't know this whole time. Like I knew a lot of things were filmed in Portland, but I had no idea the high school that was used like as that famous parking lot backdrop in the first movie, that was filmed there. And I don't think they filmed the inside parts there. I think it was just like the parking lot scene, but still that's so iconic, like where Bella almost gets killed by that car. I mean, and luckily when we went, there was like somebody who was like leaving and then we had our turn, and then as we were leaving, someone else was getting there. So it wasn't busy. And so I ended up just taking a lot of different videos and photos again, just a lot of fun. All right, I'm in Forks High School. I'm like up by the high school, so you might not notice it, but there's the parking lot down there. Pretty cool. I'm gonna investigate a little bit. And I got to peek in a little bit. The inside didn't look familiar in any way, but it definitely looks like a normal functioning school. And also because this is a school, best to go during the weekend to not like be in the way at all. I was wanting to go on the way down on Thursday, but then my friend made a good point saying like school and stuff like that, although there's a high chance we would have been there after school hours, but maybe like sports and stuff. So I'm glad we went on a Sunday to not be disruptive. That was like the main things that we did that I think you can just get away with doing in just like 2 or so days within the Portland area. And then I know there was also some scenes that were filmed closer to the beach or the water. And if you go to Oregon, especially if you're flying there and have more time, the coast of Oregon is so beautiful, like Cannon Beach and all of that. And I actually went there during like the pandemic when we were all doing weekend getaway trips and going to nature to cope. It's just a bit of a drive and we only really had the weekend. But if you have more time, I recommend going there, not just because it's absolutely beautiful, but because I also know there were some Twilight scenes that were filmed out there. All right, sorry, I'm back. My memory card in my camera is full, so that's a good sign that I'm just being repetitive and saying a lot like normal. That is my recommendation for what to do on your Portland trip if you come for Twilight sites and maybe some Halloweentown stuff as well. And if you want to go to Forks, there's actually a Twilight festival that happens yearly. I found out about this last year, like right before, and I wasn't able to go. It's during Bella's birthday in mid-September. So if you want to go to Forks, I really want to go during this Twilight festival next year in September. So I recommend that. But anyway, I'm gonna go before my camera gets mad at me again. Thank you all so much for watching, and I hope to see you in a future video of mine. Bye!